Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Craven.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And Jody Lynn, of course, we're doing our usual Wednesday show that we do together, and we got our guest joining us today, Michelle Whiteside. But I was also thinking about how before we got started here, you and I were talking about web-related stuff, and then Michelle comes on, we're talking about how you get podcasts going and so forth. And it occurred to me that the pre-show conversation was kind of like a little mirror image of the fact that we are now doing these wonderful conversations, and have been for many years, doing these wonderful conversations online using internet technology. Mm-hmm. And how cool that is. I mean, you're in Canada. I'm in Connecticut. Michelle, where are you located?
I'm in California.
California. So we've got far distant places that we're all connected to. And we're having conversations like this because of this wonderful technology.
Right. I love that.
How exciting that is.
It's amazing.
Great. Yeah, I love it. So we're going to dive into that at some point, I'm sure, during the show. But first, we got to find out a little bit more about our guest. So Michelle Whiteside is, she has a whole story that leads up to what she does now, but she basically helps people. And she helps men, she helps women, she helps teens. She's going to be telling us all about that. She helps with trauma and overcoming codependency and addictions and all kinds of nasty things like that. But as usual, there's also a story that goes with that. So Michelle, that's what I'm going to ask you first. First, I'm going to welcome you, say, hey, welcome to the program. And then the second thing I'm going to ask you is, tell us a story about how Michelle Whiteside became Michelle Whiteside.
Oh, we don't have enough time.
Well, give us the short version.
I mean, the short version. So I'll tell you how I got into being a certified master recovery coach. Because it's kind of a lot of people went through the COVID, been a hairdresser for 29 years, 30 in a month. And when COVID hit, we were at home 7 months, not working. Yeah. But I always liked helping people. I kind of wanted to go into psychology when I was younger. And I had the same beliefs and programming that a lot of us were instilled with, that I wasn't really capable and so forth. And there were other things in the mix. So I was a good worker bee, right? I worked at Nordstrom. I did all that. And then I was always around people and helping people, whether it was in a capacity for service of like healthcare or in retail, right? So, and hair as well. So when COVID hit, I went back to school. A lot of things were changing in my life in a very big way that it was coming for some of them, but I didn't realize what I realized why I went through it, like a lot of us, right? So I didn't realize I was codependent. I didn't realize that my marriage was not really what it appeared after 28 years. I didn't realize that I was intelligent and capable and had a big dent to make here on the planet. So went back to school, took a break from the husband, and a lot of things started to happen. My son moved out, so empty nest, and my salon now, people came to me, but it was like from being the top of my game, 3 days a week, 7 to 8 clients a day, making very good money, to not that, and having to really kind of regroup, so to speak. A lot of my clients, some of them did stay with me and they're still with me, but really it was time to step into who I am today, the best chapter of me. And that's what I try to help with. I didn't realize my trauma, ADHD, abuse, and all of that. I didn't know really any of that. And I'd done a lot of work, but the layers, right? The peeling. And I think I was ready. And when you step out certain situations and you see things you didn't, and as you grow, you realize, wow, and you start to learn to have empathy for yourself, and you start to learn to parent yourself, and you start to do that, and your beliefs and patterns change. And so within, so without. But I was trying to do that with a Louise Hay's book when I was 18. I was missing the boat. I was partying like crazy. But I was trying. So some of us kind of had that when we were younger. Like we had some kind of knowing of, like I said, I believed in love, and we didn't have internet. My mom is an emotional manipulator. I'll use that word instead of the other one that's thrown around all the time, but she really is. And so I emulated that in my relationships. Right. And, but I would go to the trees all the time and play with the fairies. And I would say, I believe in love. And when I moved out, I was like, I believe in love. We didn't have anything to know what that even meant, but I did. So it's just following. So now I'm able to do that with other people and give it back. Right. And I know we're supposed to have women or men or whatever, but my business clients, I have male clients, I have women clients, and I have teens. So it's all the same thing. It's just different. It's just kind of guided a little bit differently. But we all have the same, not enough cards. We all have the same, we've been beliefs or programming from the universe, from our homes or from whatever that aren't necessarily true. And 95% of what we do is we don't know, which is frightening. I used to say I need an exorcism from my subconscious, but anyway, it's a lot of work of being aware, but then all of a sudden you're different without knowing you're different. So there's NLP, and we're masters of habit change. The Health Institute is what I learned, and with support and accountability and a great system. And it's what they did to me. So what happened was it was a personal development school. I didn't really know that. As I was going through all these huge changes alone with my daughter in the house, and my best friend I met there, and she's still my best friend, and she was coach. We'd practice and stuff like that. So I was doing everything I do with my clients. So it was working on me. And they're like, you'll be forever changed when you're done with school. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. No. Yeah, they are. They were right. And so then just giving that back. I mean, it really saved my life. It really saved my life. And I tell people when they're in transition, and moving through grief or moving through a different job or just different parts of themselves, that to do something big, it doesn't have to be a new career, but something that's you're just a little uncomfortable, but it's part of you to build for yourself, right? Very, very important.
One thing that I'm sure Jody Lynn picked a lot of things out of what you said, and I did too, but one thing I'm really thinking about is you talked about supposed to. Those are probably two of the most overused words in the English language. That you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to have this kind of clientele, you're supposed to show up in this way, you're supposed to do that.
Shoot on yourself, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of words that we use that I find to be.
Where does it come from? Who made it all up anyway?
Yeah, who said that? Who's the person who said that? Right.
I'm whole anyway. We're all whole together. And then,
Yeah. It's incredible.
Relearning.
It creeps in there. There's the should-haves, and there's also it falls into a lot of different descriptors. So the category I use to describe it is the victim category. The thing that amazes me more than anything else is how we make victims out of ourselves. Right. We tend to think of other people making victims out of us. We're like volunteers.
We do it to ourselves with the inner critic, and then everything out here also reflects that, and that keeps the story up. But it's actually easier to stay there in that stinky diaper than it is to step out and realize you are a creator of your life. You are able to make changes in who you want to be. It's just easier the other way. But not for everyone. Some of us, the universe hits you with a punch or a feather, right? So whether you decide to look at which one or whatever, but I think some of us are just kind of that way because there's people that still are where they're at.
Jody Lynn, what are you latching onto from what Michelle's saying?
I love the punch or the feather. Mine's more been like several punches.
Yeah, me too. I really haven't had the feather because I don't really listen when it's the feather. That's the problem.
No, I mean, right? We've talked about this a lot, especially recently, why do we go through hard times? I think because the punch is more effective than the feather for a lot of us hard-headed individuals. You get so ingrained in that space, it becomes easy to be there. Like you were saying, I 100% agree with that. And I think more than ease, I would love your opinion on this, but what I think is that more than ease, it's a fear of, I don't know what that looks like. I was
going to say that. I got goosebumps. I know. I don't know.
I know what this stinky diaper looks like, smells like, feels like, everything. Right. It might be shit, but at least I know.
Exactly. It's the fear of the unknown. Yeah. And we make it fear. So we're fear of the unknown, but the unknown can always be better. It can't get better from where that shitty diaper is. Yeah. It's going to stay there and get worse. At least you have it helped me a lot to move through, but it actually could be that, right?
Yeah, I was afraid of what I would learn about myself that I didn't like. And that would often be the barrier that stopped me is I'm going to, the other shoe is going to drop and I'm going to realize I'm this awful person. And that was really hard for me to walk through. Not that done anything bad or
No,
like
I get
been
it.
a bad person or anything
Right.
like that. But I just
Right.
had this deep-seated belief that I was really bad. And eventually I was going to know that if I dug deeper, and then everybody else would know too.
So funny you should say that. I felt the same way when I was younger. I thought that if you got to know me, that you'd think I was crazy, or you'd find out that what was that? What? Not even like, yeah, like it holds us back, but
Totally.
you need help to get out, really, or something greater, and support and friends and coaches and therapists and blah, blah, blah. But, you have to want to do that though.
Totally.
The call has to be louder than the other one.
So why do you think the call does tend to be louder for certain people than for others?
Do you want my opinion on this? Chosen ones. No. I think everybody has the propensity. What I've noticed with my clients I do a lot of LinkedIn audios, and I've made some really great friends. Oh, I got goosebumps in the collective there. And I learned to talk like I am now because it was really scary. But what I notice from the people that I'm in contact with that are doing big things with big hearts, and we've all been through a lot. And I don't know if it's because we are empaths, like in the very beginning, or, there's different theories of how that happens, or if that my thing is in order to be of service, right? In order to be really helpful, I think we have to go through challenges that become gifts to help somebody else. And I know that there's theories. I believe that I said at a certain time at 2:00 in the afternoon that I was going to sit with Walt and Dolly Lynn, and we're going to talk. And this is what you guys are helping me work out. And this is what I'm helping you work out. We don't remember. And some of us go, boy, did you really rip off that Band-Aid? My girlfriends are like, you're stubborn. But I go, God, like, I'm not coming back. But I mean, I think the adversity that we go through is really for a bigger purpose. Because not everyone has stuff, but where it is for them too. Like their stuff might be not as dramatic, but to them it's the same. But that waking up part, or the part to use that to help and as a gift, that's really the people are all pretty much the same hearts that way. Like I think we just, maybe, I don't know, been around a few more times, or I believe that it's divinely inspired. That's what I think. Different ages of souls, or we're supposed to be what we're doing here, right? And I don't think everyone gets or decides to do what some of us are doing or had to go through. But we don't know that then. We just were going through hell, or keep doing the same thing over again, expecting different results, or drugs, alcohol, food, sex, gambling, just being miserable, right? And some people, not many, break through from whatever that is in order to do something here. Just sometimes takes a little while. Some are quicker, some are slower, right?
What's your take on that, Lynn? Why do you think it takes so long, or why do you think some people break through and others don't?
Because of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
comfort. I think we lack empathy in our society. And I also think people want things now, instant gratification kind of thing, and they don't want to be uncomfortable. I mean, frankly, who wants to be uncomfortable? I don't want to be uncomfortable. I still don't like being uncomfortable, but I also know the gifts of being uncomfortable, right? Like I know that do it anyway. And that's the thing. Even if it's uncomfortable, even my clients, you take them just a little bit uncomfortable, not hugely so, but enough. And then it shifts. They get self-esteem and trust, and then it opens up a whole new thing. But people don't want to, it's like feeling. It's like they don't want to. And I think
a lot of it has to do with timing. I think that there's the divine intervention side of things, or divine inspiration. And I think that call, depending on the reason you're here, because I think we're all here for different purposes. We're all here to awaken, at different times and speeds and whatever that looks like. So I think that call over your lifetime just gets stronger and stronger and becomes that punch, depending on what your purpose is. Like if you're here to help the world ascend, you're probably going to get it a little bit earlier. I'm in that
forum. I could talk like that. I could talk all about it. I don't really know, but yeah, I totally agree with you. And I got chills when you were talking. So for me, that's true. My gifts have been, I was told they'll come out when I stop taking care of everybody else and start working on me. And that's true. But like what you said, I really do believe that. I do. I believe that it's our job. And I believe that we're supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, which I'm not sure what, but I know I'm on my path, and you probably know, and you probably will too. And there's nothing like that. I get really choked up because I've been through a lot, like a lot of people, but I have to tell you like 4 years ago that I would have purpose like I have now. And I didn't go looking for purpose. It just is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I went looking for purpose, to be perfectly blunt.
You did?
I really did. I mean, it's not like I didn't have just crap going on that motivated me, because I did. But one of the things that I mean, you mentioned, for instance, how you were grateful that so much of this started to happen to you at a young age. Excuse me. I'm all choked up. I didn't start really diving into this stuff till I was in my 50s.
Oh.
Up until that point, I was pretty much lost.
I was lost too, though.
I mean, I really didn't have any idea of what my purpose was. I was pursuing a purpose that had basically been handed to me through my experience, through my family, through colleagues and so forth. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't know what motivated me. In fact, that's kind of where the crisis came from, because the crisis came from me just kind of, first of all, running into a financial wall, and second of all, realizing that as I was running into that wall, I was doing stuff that I really didn't want to do, that I didn't enjoy at all, and I was getting no value out of.
Right. Yeah. But how many people stay there and do that, and you didn't? That's the thing. There's a lot of people in
I don't know how you do that, actually. To be perfectly honest, I don't know how you stay in that place, because it was so painful. I don't really either, even though I don't know if I would have gone that deep. But I mean, there's a lot of people like that they think that's what they have to do. Mm-hmm. And when you're in alignment with what you're supposed to do, everything works out. It's uncanny.
The other side of this, or another thing to look at, is we're in a space of contrast in this third dimensional reality. So if everybody was awakening to their purpose and doing all their things, we wouldn't have that contrast of not. So maybe there's also another purpose, and them not waking up is to show.
I've read a lot about that they have their purpose, and if we wouldn't see the rain if there wasn't the sun, right? And that's true. And, I think it's hugely whatever, but I think you're right, because we wouldn't know, right? And we also, there's so many people ascending, waking up, and that one of my things on my thing was my job was here to help people awaken. And whether that's teens, because even though they're supposedly already, or like kids are already but I still think awaken, because they still had the same beliefs and same programming, and the trajectory of their lives. Like even my kids were saying, if people were doing this, we wouldn't have ended up here, right? Like it's the thing missing from our schools, right? There's that connection, that soul connection to self, and then something greater. So, yeah.
I'm curious, since you've been working with teens, I have another co-host named Joel Elston who does a lot of work as a coach, particularly with teens who are like in the foster care system. Or, that's what I do. A little more trouble. What's her name? His name is Joel Elston.
Okay.
But one of the things that he and I have talked about a lot is that when you help people like that, when you teach them concepts about law of attraction, how the universe works, how energy works, all that kind of stuff, they pick it up so much faster than adults do. Because we've come to the conclusion it's because they don't have as much baggage. They haven't been doing as much and carrying as much and building up as much momentum on stuff.
Right.
That is
they can jump out of the line still, right?
But do you see the same thing happening when you're working with teens?
Yeah, my teens are great. So I also work with teens that aren't in the normal, but they're round, hole, square peg. Some of them are, from juvie or some of them have been in juvie, and then they get all proud they didn't go back, and because they never have to go back there. So they have a lot of second language students. And what I find is they're so, they speak Spanish and they're learning more English, but they're like meditation, and they're taking the class through. It's like they don't miss a beat. But what's really great is how they start to act different in the class, because I'm just holding a flashlight for them. but they know they have big hearts. And if you call them on it, they feel like you called them with their pants down, right? Because they're used to being in trouble and not showing up to school, but they're like amazing little people. And to see them hold the space for others when they're talking now differently than they used to, how they talk with me, the things they tell me they want to do, which is really vulnerable. Like, I'm like, wow. And, I didn't know what I was doing. I fell into it. I had no idea. I wanted to work with women who were leaving toxic marriages, and that's what I was going to do. And of course, divinely inspired, I have kids. I was like, oh my God, no. But, they teach me so much, and the profoundness of how they are and what they need to learn is, like I said, I'm just going to believe in them for an hour. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have curriculum, but and then I created the Meet the Future You program, which is really cool. And, and I base it on the week and where they're at. And, we don't need ground rules anymore. It's really great. I love it. And I think a coach should be in every single school all over the U.S. I think it's very important, because it's the action of changing all of that stuff so they can do whatever they want to do. If it's been done before, they can do it. And if it hasn't, you can figure it out too.
All over the U.S.
and
Canada.
They might say that, but they don't believe it.
Around the world.
What?
I was just asking.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, I got goosebumps again. So yeah. My thinking, I'd love to travel around, but yeah, all around the world. I mean, I have friends in my collective on LinkedIn from Zimbabwe, from Australia. I mean, we're just, all over. Go big or go home is one of my little mottos. So.
Yeah. Very
good. Yeah. Me too. Thank you.
Do you have questions, Jody Lynn, or do I jump back in?
Keep going. Yeah.
No, I didn't realize we were in so much alignment. That's probably why I reached out. But I was like, I love this. I just love this. And I think there's going to be more. And it just makes me so happy because it's what I've always believed, even younger. I just had to get out of my own way. And I just love meeting my tribe. I just think it's awesome. And I want more of them everywhere.
Well, the tribe grows.
It's great. This year is supposed to be a big year.
Yeah.
Really big year with a lot of things that we're not supposed to be afraid, right? Because a lot of people are going to need our help to know there's bigger purpose here. They're not going to understand. And I'm not sure. I have my ideas from all.
Well, I remember when I first started the podcast, I started in 2012. And podcasting was just kind of starting to get going at that point. It had been going for a few years, but it hadn't really taken off yet. And here I am talking about law of attraction, right? And knowing that in most cases, anybody who I was talking to about that was going to be very resistant, and they're going to show their resistance.
Back then. Oh, yeah.
And here we are 11 years later, and I can't even find I have had one guest in the last 4 or 5 years who came on the show and said, I'm going to disagree with you about law of attraction. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. One out of hundreds. And I think to myself, wow, what a shift that is. It's 100 degrees the opposite of what it was when I started.
Do you think that's because of the collective, right? Or is it because of who you are? And
well,
that's what you attract?
It's both. Obviously, I'm attracting the people who are in the tribe, so to speak.
Right.
But it's also showing me just how large that tribe. I thought the tribe was like 3. Right. I thought it was really, really tiny. Right. It's a lot bigger and it's growing.
It is, and all over the world, and everyone talks the same way. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, you couldn't know that, and you know that. It's the same. It's so amazing, right?
It actually kind of blows my mind. One of the things, so I started my coaching practice, I don't know, 7 years ago, something like that. And at that time, I'm channeling key codes to abundance and things like that. And one of the things that divinely dropped in was shoulding all over yourself. And the amount of times that I have now heard that in the last 3 weeks is eerie. Not from people that I've ever met or that have probably even seen any of my content or any of my work, but that concept of shoulding, like shitting all over yourself, has just hit the consciousness wave and has gone beyond my channel, the things that I brought through, because nobody was saying that, 7 years ago. Never heard it in my entire life.
Shadow work is not new. Shadow work is really old. Carl Jung, shadow work, but everyone's like, shadow work. I'm like, oh my God. That's like the pet rock if I had done shadow work. I'm dating myself, but because it's like to people, and it's so funny because it's not new, but it's new. Yeah. So I'm wondering about the shoulda things, if there's somewhere, Jody Lynn, that you might want to look at that, because you're seeing it everywhere, right?
Just that phrase, shoulding all over yourself. That's something that I had never heard, that I had channeled 7 years ago. And then I started using in my practice. I had never heard it before. And then I have heard other people speak of it now. And I think it's the conscious wave that we're all really, truly connected, and that thought isn't independent, that we're all connected to one another.
I need a sweater. You guys are giving me chills all day. And, that's one of the things that it's just true, and I'm connected to it, and then it tells me chills.
I'm trying to remember when I first heard. I know shoulding was something that I first heard here on the podcast from a guest or a co-host. I can't remember who it was exactly. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. So I think you're right, Jody Lynn. There's like a consciousness thing that was going on there. Yeah. And it was kind of spreading like wildfire.
Well, and that's the beauty of, that's the beauty of like life, of this work, of spirituality, I think, of this in general, how we're all connected is, you continue to drop little seeds everywhere you go, just like a bird drops seeds, or a bee or whatever, right? Like they're pollinating all these flowers. We're doing the exact same thing with all these beautiful ideas and concepts. And whether, like you are actively trying to like beat it into somebody's head, that's one way, and that's an option. But also just having these conversations like you have, Walt, for the last, several years, 2,000 episodes, or how long it's been. All of this is waving out and like rippling out. That's the word I'm looking for. Rippling out to so many people beyond what we see in front of our faces.
Yeah.
And energetically too, right? Like not even just, I think, the highest vibration is authenticity. I thought it was unconditional love, but it's authenticity, and the lowest is shame. But supposedly the way they weight each other, like you get so much of the higher vibe, lower vibe, which is not really, but just saying like the shame, it outweighs like 1 to 5. Like there's a huge thing. So once it shifts, it's going to just totally just shift over. That's the concept, the thought, right?
That leads to a topic that I've long been interested in. I'm curious to know what your take is on it, Michelle. But the fact is that we live in this world of contrast, this polarity world. And in this world, we've all experienced it. The vast majority of humans are absolutely fixated on the negative. I mean, we can't get enough of it. We love drama. We love, and anything that we're interested in always has a very strong negative side, and that's what we latch on to. You show fuzzy bunnies, and there's an audience for that, but it doesn't hold very long. What holds everybody's attention is, train wrecks.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why are we so wrapped up in the negative?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One is back to that belief system again. I was raised pretty negatively, like just always, never, whatever. And so, but I also think just being out there, I think it's in a weird way to like the hit that I'm getting actually is like, if you're a negative victim kind of thing, then that's all you have to do. And you don't have to do, it's a whole thing. You don't have to do that, and you don't have to feel uncomfortable, but also you don't have to, it's almost like keeping yourself separate in a weird way, the negative, because if you look at people who have like the negative with the judgment or all that, it's also deflecting from themselves again, which is the uncomfortable part, they think. Well, it can be, but I think that people are just so used to being, everything is negative. Mm-hmm. And toxic positivity is a different thing too. I mean, just being positive.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm not for that either.
I think it's the flip side of the same topic, really.
Right. Totally. And I think it's the same thing. It's a kind of a protection. to keep yourself separate or different and not have to feel and not have to know what that is. Because what's the opposite of being negative is being more positive. What happens if you're positive? Then you have to do something different. Then you have to maybe feel something unknown, or maybe and this is all unconscious, right? People aren't walking around thinking this. This is just what they're doing. But they don't have a call or a punch or a feather to make it different. So they're not going to. And they're going to keep doing what they've always done. People don't change unless they want to.
What's that?
What's your take, Jody Lynn, on this question?
Well, the question that dropped in for me is, are we really attracted to the negative? And I'm mulling that over in my mind because I think about, my husband makes fun of me. I love The Bachelorette. I love Love is Blind. He's like, why do you watch that garbage TV? And for me, it's watching people fall in love. Like, I find myself like with the covers and like, oh, it's so cute. That's adorable. And then that made me think of like the hero's journey. You know, somebody goes through something.
I'm reading it again. Like, actually last night I started. That's funny.
Yeah. You go through something tough and whatever. And then you pop out the other side and there's this triumphant moment. Like, what if that's the attraction to the negative, is we're waiting just instinctively for that hero's journey because we see ourselves in those to be called heroes in their struggle and their strife. But the media that we have mostly today doesn't show that other side. So we get so enamored with the first part of the story, the struggle, that we forget that there is this other side of things, and we come to expect only the struggle and not the triumph.
Mm-hmm. See, I think that the whole like, I like dark movie. I like all that too, and but I like dark things. I like Game of Thrones. I mean, it's like, whatever. But I don't even think the people that I've come across that are more negative, I don't think they even realize they're being negative, though. Right. I don't think so. I think they don't see it like that. Like, we're sitting here and we're disseminating it, but we're from a different place. I mean, we're looking at it totally different place. They're not even thinking it as negative. They just think that's what they do, and there's no reason to question it, so they continue. Right? And I don't know why. Some people don't do that, and some people do. I don't know why some people get sober. A lot of people don't. Why are, different bottoms, different things. Why are you okay and the other person's not? Doesn't make sense. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot we don't know for reasons we don't know.
Well, that's profound.
I know, right? Like, wow, but I mean, I think it's all divinely inspired too. I think there's a lot that we don't understand. We do, but not from here, right? Like, I think as our souls ascend and evolve and so forth, we've been told, there's a book. I love this book. It's called Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Mace. Mm-hmm. And it's old school, but she talks about, all over in Greece and Rome and so forth, there's a lake that you go in to forget. So when you come here, you don't kind of mess it up, because self-will or whatever, you'll do whatever if it's too easy. So we don't remember until we get to be midlife. Remember, if you're in that arena, because we would not do the things we're supposed to do here. So we try to jimmy rig it somehow, or, left to our own devices. So, and I don't know if those people don't wake up because we're supposed to see the polarity, right? Or we're supposed to really go up against it for some reason or another. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps if we remembered it, we wouldn't have chosen the same paths that we needed to go through to learn the things that we needed to learn to awaken or to get on our path.
That's exactly what she said. Yeah. So if I'm here to learn forgiveness, or I'm here to learn unconditional love, or I'm here to for myself or whatever, if we wouldn't do that. When we decided this is why we're here, if this time to be here in the world right now, we decided this is a very pivotal time in history, and we just all decided to be here.
Mm-hmm. Interesting collective choice too.
Yeah.
I think there's another piece to it too.
What?
This is one that I've thought about quite a bit, and I don't think it really necessarily answers anything. It actually asks more questions than it answers. But it comes from law of attraction teaching. The basic law of attraction teaching is that you want to focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. Otherwise, you get more of what you don't want.
Right.
One of the things that people tend to do is they tend to repeatedly focus on what they don't want, with the belief that if they somehow do that, that they're really focusing on the opposite of it.
Right. And I'm notorious for that. I think that's how I used to be, like always.
And as Abraham Hicks pointed out, when you're doing that, you're really not focusing on, first of all, what you're hoping is an opposite really isn't an opposite. As they pointed out, the opposite of something is the lack of something. It's not good versus evil or something like that. It's the opposite of thing is lack of thing. So it's not truly an opposite. But even more than that, just knowing the thing that you don't want doesn't automatically take you to what you do want. You actually have to take that step. You have to mentally take the step of saying, okay, yes, it gives me contrast. Yes, it gives me perspective.
So
but with that perspective, what do I want instead?
Right.
And that's the question that we're not used to asking and answering.
Right.
So we get stuck on, well, I got to keep looking at all this negative stuff. I got to explore, here's some more negative stuff. I'm going to keep working on this negative stuff because, by God, there's got to be something positive in here somewhere if I just look at enough negative stuff.
So funny. It's so true. It's so not like that arena. There's no not unconscious, but it's so true. And if you put law of attraction, right? If you keep doing that and with the mind talk and the critic and all of that, you're going to keep, because we manifest all the time. There's a whole thing about that. But as we go, that's what we keep doing. And we are trying to prevent it from happening because it's a fear thing. So if I, I'm scared, you don't even know if that's going to happen because that happened before, but you think our subconscious is trying to keep us safe. So how does it do that? And then we have those negative tapes. That's what has to be rewritten. That's changing the gray matter in our brain with NLP, or it's all a little bit of everything, meditation, and changing it with a different story, even if you don't want to, and being really conscious and aware of what you are telling yourself, because my critic was so quiet. You couldn't hear it, but it was running always in the background, right? Until I really did some more work and solitude, and it finally, and they come up or you see something, you go, oh, there you are. Okay, now I'm doing this instead. And you do something instead different, right? You can change your belief in the moment if you do the opposite, right? But a lot of us can't dream. We didn't learn to dream either because we didn't think we were capable. So there's a whole thing too. But a lot of people don't know that.
I remember
they don't know that.
When I was growing up in the 60s, and one of the albums that became popular during that time was Simon & Garfunkel's Sounds of Silence. The song Sounds of Silence includes a phrase that says, hello, darkness, my old friend. And I remember hearing that the first time. I thought to myself, what on earth is Paul talking about? What on earth, hello, darkness, my old friend. Like, what are you, like some sort of, super depressed being or something? What's going on here? I had no idea what he was referring to. Now I get it. Because that darkness side, that is a friend for so many people on a regular basis. It was a friend for me for a long time. I didn't even know it was a friend.
It's familiarity.
Very familiar.
Right?
Yeah. It's that safety zone, that comfort zone you were talking about.
Right. But when you realize that is our friend, it's our gift. It's that darkness is helping do X, Y, and Z, because you can't do X, Y, and Z without the darkness. But you have to know that you need to walk out of that to know that.
You made the reference earlier to how easy it is to stay in that comfort zone. One thing that I find happens over time, I certainly have found it in my own case, is that the more work that I do on myself, the more I get to the point where I actually notice when I'm starting to feel comfortable, and feeling comfortable feels uncomfortable.
I know.
It's like, I got to do something. I'm starting to feel comfortable. This is not good.
Right. Or I think I like stagnant, but I get this feeling too. And it's like, but I'm always have something there that's going to step me out of the box. I don't have to do too much.
Right. Oh yeah. It's not like you have to work at it.
I need a break. Just slow down. Right. Right. But it's just awesome. I mean, it's great. I could talk about this stuff and read about this stuff forever and ever in a day. And of course, my mind wants to know all the answers that we don't know, but we're not going to know.
Well, that's why we talk about them here on the show, because
we
go down thousands of
figure it out.
Yeah. That's what rabbit holes are for. They're for exploring.
That's right.
And I love that Jody Lynn coaches a lot like I do intuitively and uses channels and stuff like I do. And I think it's fabulous because we are really, I say that the best coaches because we use, I have a different employer, right? Like it comes and it's a magical and I love it. And I want to do it again and again and again. Right?
Yeah.
See, you did a better intro than I was going to do. I was just going to do a more straightforward intro, which was tell us about your Leveling Up with Michelle program. But you just gave the much better intro. So take your segue. Talk about the program, because your segue is so much more appropriate. So just take it to the next level. Level it up.
Level it up. Yeah, I'm comfortable, so I'm like letting you rip.
Oh no, well no. So talk about your program. Talk about the Leveling It Up program.
Oh, my programs. They've kind of evolved as I have. So I was realizing the other day that until I did certain X, Y, and Z, I couldn't get to X, Y, and Z. I didn't really know that then, but I realized it's my own evolution as well. Like you can't give back what you don't have. And I really wanted to work with women that were in business or moms, not necessarily all leaving toxic relationships, but people pleasers, saying yes when you want to say no, no when you want to say yes. And I kept getting stuck there, but I didn't realize that I had to do some more work on myself, which I did. And so my programs, and which is funny because I was working with men that were coming, like referrals and stuff. So, and they're awesome. It's the same stuff, same people pleaser, same kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But my programs are tailored. I mean, I do pretty much the normal, what coaches do, like a 12-week program, but I do tailor it for each person because I have my regular curriculum, which is based really on habit change, which is the beliefs and the critic and so forth. And so in the beginning, we find out what the real why is. Why are you doing X, Y, and Z? Not just, for instance, the kids want a car. Well, why do you want a car? It drives fast. Well, why do you want it to drive fast? Because usually you'll find out that whatever people want, it's usually not that. It's something deeper than that. And once you're connected to that and can be reminded of that, everything else pivots off of there. And we do little things that they're like, what? I'm going to declutter this? What? There is huge things because things are already shifting in the moment. I do use some of the esoteric in my coaching. I do Reiki. I do some tarot. And I do a lot of channeling, like stuff will come out of my mouth. That's not from my head, from my heart. And then we'll follow that. So we kind of move, like I have structure and I have 2 things that we do, but then I'll kind of go with where the client is at that day. Everyone ends up working with me longer. 12 weeks is where we start, but usually it's at least, I would say 8 months to a year because it takes time to peel that onion. And then more things come up that they want to uncover and find out. And it's really connecting with themselves for whatever their purpose is. I do a lot of like teaching, like on LinkedIn and doing all that, the audio events. I love that. And talking to people all over. I'm trying to do more with the schools. So now I created a nonprofit and an LLC for my program. So, and I was just divinely guided. I had, me knowing what 501 like really seriously. And, and I'm reading these books actually the books are really interesting, which I find funny that I even think it's interesting, but I'm learning, but I'm guiding it. That's just part. So I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. And then the next thing will come and someone will say, you really need to do a podcast. And then okay. So then that's the next thing. And then I just keep following. So, I'm still love working with one-on-one clients. I want to do retreats and things like that and more workshops away and all stuff, but I'm just kind of being followed to where I'm supposed to go because I don't know, but I'm going to show up and help people do what I did. Right. And, wake up and also really embody them and enjoy their life and why we're here and go big or go home because everyone is recovering from something, right? Whether it's trauma from childhood, whether it's the job, whether it's just yourself, like you said earlier before, that we do that to ourselves. We really do. We're the worst. But when we step out of that, we are limitless. We are everything. We are, talk about solving health problems, solving everything else. It's all connected. And I think it's important to our evolution as a species, to continue on. And I think a lot of us are following our purpose now. And I think a lot of us, leaving jobs, corporate. I have a friend who coaches corporate women who are leaving corporate businesses. And, you know, it's really about that place. We didn't learn any of this, right? So we're all just guiding, and just people that are a little bit ahead are guiding more, really. So, if there's any other questions of how to get in contact with me, or I'm not really sure where we're going, but
we never know where we're going. I mean, that's
I know. Oh, good.
We're just saying it's
See,
the
I
same
like
thing
that.
here.
I like that. I like the unknown. I think I like the unknown. Oh.
I remember first time I had Jody Lynn on was as a guest. I remember asking her, not just at that episode, but with future episodes, about how she ended up getting into the channeling, and she gave us that whole story, and a really cool story. I'm curious, how did you get going with channeling? I mean, what did it just come on you at some time, or did you go out of your way to find it, Michelle? Or I mean, like, how did you actually get going?
So I didn't know. I knew I was intuitive, and I was able to vet people on the phone when I talked to them energetically. I didn't know what that was then, right? But I had a friend who does mediumship in Canada, and we'd talk in the very beginning of this. And she said to me that, you know, you're going to find out that your gifts are going to come when you stop taking care of everybody else. I started CODA. I started a lot of things, right? And so as a kid, I was always doing these things, right? Like, but I didn't see, when you do something for so long, you don't know that you're clairaudient, but you're doing it because it's part of who you are. Doesn't everyone think that way? And they don't necessarily. And so it wasn't that I tried. I just more and more with more, like, I do work on myself, and I meditate, and I have spiritual friends, and we do things, but it really is kind of dilemma. It's just coming, and it's coming more and more. It's kind of hard because I'm like, well, I wish I would have known that was that person was going to walk through the door. I knew that, but I didn't know that it was that thought. There's all of that too. But like I said, it's actually owning. I think everyone does this, right? I think everyone has this access. But a lot of us were doing this without knowing it. And so it's kind of coming to reacquaintance with it, because we've been doing this anyway. We just didn't know that it was called this. And using it for our work, like being really present and knowing that that's what's happening, that is like awesome. And then the more comes, and then more, and then you're like, shoot, I was on fleek yesterday. Like, it's just pretty cool. But I'm not trying, because when you try, nothing happens. You know, that is, please. It doesn't work that way, right? Like, it doesn't. So it's a way more organic. I don't know what Jody's story is. I didn't have a burning bush or anything. I've just had a little pieces of opening a little up and then going, oh, okay, well, I'm going to come out of the closet now. Yep, I do tarot. And I'm doing tarot collective readings on LinkedIn, which to me is like, LinkedIn was a place I wasn't supposed to be because everyone went to college but me. But it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn's actually really amazing now. Like, it's changed a lot. But I'm doing readings with a girlfriend of mine on LinkedIn. And I'm like, I'm business and I'm woo-woo. And that's me, right? And I'm not ashamed of it. But for a while, I'm like, yeah, I do that. Right. So, I mean, I've always had that propensity, but I didn't realize what that was, or the strength, because I didn't fill my cup up, like, either. Like, I was using it for evil, not good, right? Pretty much.
You were working against yourself. Yeah.
I can never say the word, the borealis, the tail that goes in circles, that keeps fighting its tail and fighting its tail and fighting its tail. And some of us have to just step off. Right? Right.
I think it's fascinating how different people come at it in different ways. And Jody Lynn, you feel free, you can jump in and tell
I want to know your story.
It started to drop in, like, throughout my entire life. I would just know certain things about people that they never told me, or know to go intuitively in a direction or two. I have a financial brokerage, so I would always feel into the people that I'm going to meet. And then I would just know how to carry the conversation and to get to, like, the heart of the matter, and how to, pull them over the grapes so far, like, just get them where they need to go so that we can move forward with whatever they needed to do. And I, again, didn't know that I was doing any of this. It was just natural to me to follow that intuition. And I would start testing it as I started learning more, and, whatever, like, where should I go, and, like, flow with faith. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, probably 7 years ago, that's when it really started to come forward with this information, like just stuff that I knew that wasn't me. It wasn't my voice. It wasn't the way that I would speak, whether it was the cadence or the actual words. I didn't talk that fancy. So words would drop in and phrases would drop in about abundance, around money, all of these things. And I would write it down and be like, wow, that's a profound question. And I wouldn't know really where the information came from, but that's how the keys started to come in. And then I realized that somebody had said, yeah, that's channeling. And so I started doing it more fluently. And then I found a teacher and she taught me how to turn it on and turn it off so I could have a little more control and have a little more clarity and know who my guides were and protect myself. And and that kind of led me all here.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything you said, and I totally relate. And I also do the same thing. I just thought I was a good salesperson, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, I was just good with people, right? But like putting my hand on the tree, this is my new one. And I think as we start doing more and more is opened, it's like you're like, okay, you can handle this now. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're going to believe me now? Okay. So putting my hand on the tree, I ask for a word because I go hiking to the sunset with my dog every night. Like we go hiking and running. And I put my hand on the tree and I ask for a word, and I always get a word and the first word, and then I write it down, and it's kind of my little thing. And it's not, there's no voice. It's kind of a knowing. It's different. I don't hear a voice. I usually don't hear, well, I do, but that's not the voice. That's not that voice. It's more of a knowing. It's more of a knowing, and a lot of synchronicities and downloads and things, like asking a question in the morning. And I tell people, ask a question, it will be answered. It's always very quickly, right? I don't ask for things like patience and things like that because we're...
No, you've learned your lesson.
Because it's like, yeah, well, you're going to teach me how to do that to get there. No, thank you. We're good. We're all good. We're all good. But yeah, I love it. I love it because you know what? I always it feels like everyone's, I know my secret because I've always felt like this and I go, oh my God, everyone thinks this way too. It's kind of like this club because, a long time ago, people were like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And now I'm like,
Jolene, I'm going to let you carry the conversation. My cat's in distress. I'm going to be right back.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You got to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because same for me. I always felt like when this stuff started to really turn on, I was like, oh boy, my friends are going to think I am weird. And
I know, they love it now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Right?
I get lots of people who ask, like, how do you know that? And just do. And
then you start to become right. Like at first you're like, well, and then you're like,
Yeah.
It's always it's still like a parlor trick to me because I'm so I second guess. I go, well, maybe not. And then I go, okay, you can't make it up. And you're doing finance and how you are with people. And I'm like, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think that bridge between, that confidence that you build of knowing that what really helped me was having that coach, because I would channel certain things and I'd be like, this is freaking crazy. There's no way. I must have made this up. And she'd be on the other side of Zoom and I would write down what I had channeled. We'd ask a specific question for guidance and whatever. It didn't matter. Where was this? And, or whatever. It didn't matter. And she would get the same answer on the other side. And it would just blow my mind every single time. And it just boosted my confidence. The way that my channel is a little bit different than the person who taught me anyway, is it's very detailed. And I think that's why it started with finance. Is there's a deep layer. I can channel things let's say, we're channeling about somebody way back in the day or whatever. I'd be like, yes. And she had a gluten intolerance and she would use rife wheat and the rife wheat came from blah, 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 their neighbor and this. And it just has so much depth to it. And I mean, sometimes it doesn't those details don't matter.
But I think we're all different, right? Too.
Yeah.
I think we're all different because I do things different, I get the hits that I get and they're usually after and they're different than the knowing that I know. It's a different, I know there's 6 different Claires or whatever.
Yeah.
But the way that you do that, right? So when you're in a group and you do group work with other woo-woos, it's unbelievable when you all are looking and you see the same color that's grounding the room and everyone picks the same color.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Or he's healing someone and you can see the shoulder. Everyone sees the same thing. And you're like, my kids do it too with the color. I love it. I go, okay. And they do it. It's awesome. But I think we all have different, like our gifts are same but different, right? Like different things. What about you, Walt?
I was actually in the camp of people who said, well, I never had any experiences like that. I was in that for the longest time. And then I started doing this podcast and I started having channelers on the show and I started feeling inferior because here all these people are able to make these connections. I'm like, I can't seem to do that. Why can't I do that? And then one day I decided to just kind of give it a little bit of a shot because as Jody Lynn can tell you, I'm really good at asking questions. I can keep a conversation going really, really well on the show. I can draw information out of any guest. It doesn't matter who it is. But every once in a while, I'll reach a wall and I just can't seem to figure out where to go next. And, so sometimes I would force it, I'd go back to something they said earlier. I try to find some way to keep it moving. But one day I decided to just see if I could draw from the universe the way that channelers do. So I just kind of decided I'm going to open my mouth and see what happens. I was a little scared, cause I'm recording, right? And this is actually going to go out.
Oh, good. You're uncomfortable. It works.
But I just opened my mouth to see what would come out and stuff started coming out and I started asking questions and saying things and making commentary and so forth. And it was a very strange feeling because I didn't feel like I was saying anything. To me, it just sounded like there were these sounds coming out of me. And I have a pattern of not listening to my own podcasts. That was the first podcast in years that I actually listened to afterward because I wanted to find out, did it make any sense? And actually it made a lot of sense. Even?
What episode was that?
It was I don't even remember what the topic was. It was about 6-7 years ago, something like that. 5 or 6 years ago.
And you don't remember what you were saying as you were whatever comes out of my mouth is going to come
The only thing that I remember was playing it back later and saying, wow, that was profound.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because I certainly didn't know what was going on when I was saying it.
That's awesome.
Literally the way it felt to me was I was, okay, I'm going to open myself up and just let things come out. And I felt like, well, I got to fill in the space. I can't leave it as blank air. So I got to say something. So I said something like, well, what's coming to me right now is I just started talking just to try to get something going. And then all of a sudden, the sounds started turning into something that made sense to everybody except me. And I'm sitting there I'm sweating. I'm sweating as I'm doing this because I'm thinking, this is a bunch of crap that I'm saying. This is a bunch of nonsense. The people are going to get turned off by this episode. People who've been following me for years are going to say, I don't want to listen to this crap anymore. This guy's got off the deep end.
He lost his mind.
That's why I had to play it back later to find out. And when I heard it, I said, wow, that was pretty profound. Where did that come from?
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful to watch, honestly, Michelle, as I watch Walt take us through a conversation. He always leads us so beautifully and unexpectedly. I have learned so much over the last 2 years being on the show and just witnessing him step into his gifts. It's just such a beautiful experience.
I want to come too. I want to come too. I love you.
Well, you're here now.
I know, I'm here now, but I want more. That's awesome.
That's the thing with these. When you do this kind of podcast like this, it becomes addictive. I mean, it's a good kind of addiction.
I want to do my own. I'm like, I want to do my own. I want to talk to people. I have good questions too.
It's a healthy kind of. I mean, it's the kind of addiction where you don't have to go into treatment afterward. I mean, it's
a good one.
Really good.
You know what? We got to have our things. Some of us just need our things. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, what it has become, it's become my energy. It's one of my best sources of energy, just doing a podcast. Yeah.
All of my people, whenever I work like this or on LinkedIn or coaching, my people, I get energy from that. It fills me up and I love it. I mean, it's kind of addicting because because I'm on my path, right? And I'm kind of moving through the world. But then when I have people that are there, that are on their path, but it's kind of adjacent in a weird way, it brings me really back to my path. It's like, oh yeah, okay. purpose. Like, it's just, there's something very wonderful about that. And I learn so much from people. Like, it's unbelievable, right? I love that. I love people, most people.
One of the things that never ceases to amaze me has happened once again, which is I look up and I say, my God, we just flew through an hour.
Really? That happens a lot though these days.
It's remarkable.
On the show, actually, Michelle.
It happens very, very.
But there is no time, right? There is no time. That was man-made, right? There's no time.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
That's
and I find that out. I mean, we've discovered different ways to make an hour last 3 minutes and other ways to make an hour last 17 hours. I mean, it's really quite remarkable.
Oh my God, how fun. I want to know more about that too. That's interesting.
Well, we all do that. Let's be honest. I mean,
we do.
Have you ever sat through something where, my friend Joel, he does the Tuesday shows with me. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about just yesterday, actually, where he was talking about how there are certain clients he sits down with who he just knows because he's worked with them before. This one's going to be a little bit painful. This one's going to be a little bit stressed out. And those are the sessions that seem to last 17 hours.
Right.
Whereas when he knows that it's somebody, he knows they're going to take some steps, they're going to do some moving, there's going to be some motion that goes on. Those are the ones that last 15 minutes. There's
like resistance for the other ones because they have their own resistance, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we perceive that the whole thing has stretched out, or we perceive that the whole thing has sped up one way.
It's all perception. It's funny how when you start waking up, how your time changes. Like I never was late before, ever. I was early, whatever. And now I have to really, because the way that I am so present that I'll be late. And I'm like, what is that? It's like, oh yeah. I go, it's only been 5 minutes or it's been 10 minutes. It's like I have no concept of time anymore, even though I don't know if I really did, but I'm aware that my concept of time now is, right? But that's the way I think we're supposed to be. Right. When are your guys' birthdays? I'm curious.
Mine's in May.
Yeah.
Do you know your moon? July. Do you guys know your risings and your moon signs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a sun
Taurus, right?
Sun Taurus, moon Cancer, Leo rising.
Oh.
I'm Cancer.
All three, really?
Mm-hmm.
You're a double. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's finance, huh? Wow. That's cool. I love all your constellations. I'm a Pisces, Virgo rising, Capricorn moon, which you seem very, but I'm Pisces. So yeah, you have Cancer moon. That's my best friend's Cancer moon, and you have all Cancer. I love Cancers, but Tauruses are fabulous too. You guys are grounded. We all get along in the thing, whatever. I just ask. I've asked everyone since I was a kid. The sun and the rising, I mean, your moon and your rising sign are more important than your sun sign, actually, but I just like to know who, because I can feel you guys. So I'm like, what's your sign? What's your sign?
Love it.
Well, speaking of signs, we need to have one particular sign from you, and that is the sign of how people find you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm all over social media like a maniac because I was told to do it and it was really uncomfortable. So I'm on.
There's a theme.
Really, I know in the beginning I was making videos and then my friends said just make them and then I would make them and then I went on TikTok because I could hide there, I thought. There was no family, right? Like there's no family and I could talk about whatever and because I have tips and I do a lot of things. So I grew on TikTok. So, I mean, I have probably the most followers there, but I do Instagram as well, leveling up with Michelle _. You can go to my website, which is Leveling Up with Michelle, and you can reach me there and you can even chat with me off of there, I believe now. Yeah, I mean, you can really, if you put me in, you'll probably find me because I'm everywhere.
She's everywhere.
And it's great. I like that because I'm making some great connections now from there and so forth and everything else. But yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then as Jody Lynn knows, one of my things I do is I go to my co-host to summarize everything because my co-hosts are really, really good at that. Jody Lynn's like at the top of the list at that.
I know. So, she's really good at that. Yeah.
She is. She really is.
Right.
So Jody Lynn, you got the spotlight. Where's the summary today? Where do you tie the bow together?
I think Michelle has given us a beautiful example of when you take the unexpected journey, and you take every step with space or with faith, you'll get the answer that you're looking for. And to always remember that big hearts are doing big things.
You're choking me up.
See, she's good.
Beautiful.
She's really good.
I love that. I could do that too. I love that. You know, that
I love that
reflection, that
you.
witness function.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And then the last thing that I always do with every episode, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, is it's something I noticed a couple of years ago. I noticed that because you were mentioning how you create the videos and so forth. And we all are, those of us who are trying to help people, we're talent creators and content creators. And we're putting a lot of stuff out there to people that we never meet, we never see, and we don't know how it all plays out. But it helps people in ways that we don't know about. And what occurred to me was we don't get credit for that. So I like to give credit by saying on behalf of those people you've never met and you've never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've been putting that content out to and helping in ways you don't even know about, thank you for what you've been doing, because you're making a difference in this.
Right. Yeah. Well, it thanking me is great, but it's helping me too. The content helps me. You know what I mean? It helps me too. Yeah. And it's so funny because your coach, no, I'm a digital creator. This is all I feel like I do. but it's putting out, and I think energy brings energy, right? And so we're all putting out good energy out in the world of saying, hey, you can overcome this. Hey, this tip really works. Hey, you know what? Go easy on yourself. You're further than you think. Keep going. You got this. That's we all use that. If you look at all the coaching platforms or whatever, we all say the same thing, and, helping people wake up and to be the best versions and have a happy life, whatever that may mean for them, no matter how old or what sex. Right?
That's beautiful. All right. Very good. Well, Michelle, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome.
Thanks for becoming part of our extending family here, which is a great thing.
Yeah. Sending you guys hugs.
Oh,
and I want to talk offline to both of you, so you know where to find me.
All right. Well, then we'll draw a line to our listeners saying thank you very much to our podcast listeners everywhere, and we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.